All right, let's try it. Essential Sessions, an authentic analog experience.
My name is Ellen Stanley, and I'm Executive Director of the MMC, and our mission is right there. We're all about supporting independent musicians across the state, providing resources, skills, opportunities for artists so they can have sustaining careers in music. The Caravan Du Nord, this is our third annual caravan, and it's a traveling showcase of Minnesota music, pairing up bigger name regional acts with local musicians and industry professionals to put on a day of programming in different towns across the state. And today's programming in Austin is the kickoff to the 2013 Caravan Du Nord tour. So I want to thank Essential Session Studios for their support, as well as 89.3, The Current, which is our media sponsor, and KSMQ, which is our TV sponsor for this Austin show. We're very excited to have them on board as well. And I want to thank Riverland Community College and Scott Blankenbaker for hosting us here today. So a part of the Making It Workshops series, and maybe at the end we'll have you talk about what's coming up next. But I want to introduce our distinguished panel, or maybe I should have them introduce themselves. That would probably be better. If you guys want to each go around, say your name, what you do, and where you're from, that would be cool.
I'm Wendy Larson. I'm a member of the local band, Full Circle. We're a family band, my sister and I and our sons. We play we've never really settled into one genre of music. We play everything from classical, bluegrass, country, old time. We've never wanted to find our niche, I guess I would say.
And what do you play?
I play fiddle, I play mandolin, I play guitar, and I play bass fiddle. For the concert this evening, I'll be playing fiddle.
Cool.
I'm Sara Horishnkyk. I'm a drummer for Bethany Larson and the Bee's Knees. We've performed at the Paramount a couple times. I also own Xylo Entertainment, and I do a lot of booking and management and web design and things for artists with that.
And you're from?
So the Twin Cities.
I'm Jack Torrey, and I sing and play guitar and write songs and grew up in Minneapolis.
And I'm Jennie Knoebel, the Executive Director of the Austin Area Commission for the Arts, who oversees the historic Paramount Theatre and the Austin Artworks Festival. And I'm from Austin. I'm here now.
I'm Paige Berkum. I am in the Cactus Blossoms and play guitar and sing.
Wonderful. Well, we're really excited to have this panel here with us today to talk about booking and touring on a budget. And just to get a sense of who's present today, how many of you guys are musicians in the audience? Okay. How many of you are musicians that tour already? Okay. How many of you want to be touring but are like, I don't know what to do? Okay. Well, actually, maybe we have a more advanced crowd. Okay. And is there anyone here who does booking either for themselves or for other people? Oh, wow. Your hand went up every time. So clearly that you're in the right place. Well, I guess this kind of has two pieces, the booking and the touring. And I should also mention, in addition to being executive director of the Minnesota Music Coalition, I've been a promoter, publicist, booking agent, and musician myself. So I've seen it from a lot of different sides. I guess the first thing I want to ask the panel is, what would be the first step you would say in terms of that if you were booking yourself, what would be the first thing that you would recommend a musician do? I'll put it to Sara since she's the booking agent.
Well, I guess I would make connections with the venue that you want to perform at, or venues. I wouldn't just narrow it down to one when you're starting off, just to keep your options open and make connections with different, whether it be the bartender who might be the manager, who knows the booking agent for the club, just getting those connections so they recognize your face and your name.
Yeah. And I think this is going to be a theme that we're going to go back to again and again, that a lot about booking, like so much in the music business, isn't just about doing the hard sell. A lot of it is developing real relationships with people, and that's kind of how things develop from there. And would you recommend, Sarah, that folks put together a press kit so they have something to send people?
Oh, yes, definitely.
So
yeah, I would, go to the venue with an EPK and maybe an album if you have something to present and talk to them.
And for those of you who don't know, an EPK, electronic press kit, that would be, it could just be as simple as a link to your Bandcamp page or your Facebook page, as long as it has information about who you are, maybe some audio samples and such. Maybe what would be also helpful is if folks talked about how they got their very first gig. I think that might be, you grew up in a family band, so you probably don't remember your first gig because you were probably this big.
Yeah, probably. Yes, I would say my first gig, though, was probably in a bar, a 3-2 joint, some kind of a juke joint. Yeah, that's, we started playing publicly in the bars, my sisters and I, when we were probably about 15. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how legal that was for that time. But we were with my father. It was my father's band, so.
Sure. One of my first gigs was with a jazz group that I had at the time in college. It was called Big Body Applehead. It was like a jazz standard combo. And we would play at the Hat Trick Lounge in St. Paul because I knew Larry England, who booked there. So that was kind of the first experience in that.
And Larry's also a DJ at KFAI Radio in Minneapolis. And is that how you got that gig? Was through just knowing Larry?
Yeah.
And how did you meet him?
It's been a while. I
Just
can't
at a show or
pinpoint.
something?
Yeah, I think he saw us at some coffee shops,
Uh-huh.
and then invited us to perform at the Hat Trick.
So again, a personal relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of the same way for me. I'd gotten asked to play, sing one song at a thing, and no one had ever heard me before, and I played that, then got asked to do more things, and played at the Turf Club at a review show that had 6 acts on it, and I did 2 songs. Then after that, I got asked to do a gig. The first time I ever played 30 minutes, 45 minutes was opening for Spider John Kerner and then the Get Up Johns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was just because I got asked. And then all of a sudden you're surrounded by a bigger group of people. You get asked to do more things if they liked it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a musician.
Jenny's exempt.
I just support.
I was gonna say, when Jack and I started playing together, we had quite a few chances to play just because we had made friends. Well, we just enjoyed playing music with our friends and other people who we knew and individually, and weren't really trying to, sell a band on anything. And then so once we decided to play together, we had maybe a group of 10 friends who were all like, oh great, you can open for us or something. So I think opening for people is a good way to do it, rather than put a lot of pressure on yourself to draw a big audience.
Yeah, and I think probably my first non-open mic gig when I picked up the banjo and started doing my mother banjo thing was actually a variety show that some friends hosted. It was called the Mean Sisters Variety Show. It was at the Bryant Lake Bowl Theater in Minneapolis, and it was sketch comedy, but then they'd invite a lot of very eclectic styles of performers to play. And I was sandwiched between a classical string quartet and a drag queen. And I was playing kind of country tunes on the banjo. And then, who else was on the bill? Dessa was on the bill when she was still doing spoken word, more poetry stuff, and POS before they had become a big hip-hop act. So you kind of never know years down the road later who you'll come in contact with. So that's pretty fun. But those are great ways to get to know people. I got to know people through playing open mics when I first started playing out. And you start also by going to shows. I think one mistake that some musicians make when they start performing their own music is they get so invested in their own music they don't go out and hear other people. And I think by going out to see shows and bands you like and bands that are playing venues you'd like to be playing, that's how you're going to get to play theirs, by talking with these folks. Has anyone out there ever done a cold call to a venue or done an email? Well, I used to do that when I booked for other artists, and it can be really scary. The nice thing is these days so many places still do things via email, so it's not as scary as it once was. You can just send a link to all that stuff. Do you guys have any tips on if, especially maybe Jennie and Sara could speak to this? What would be advice? What would you like to see, Jennie, when someone is emailing or calling you about performing at the Paramount?
Usually I like a phone call followed up with an email, because a lot of times I am so busy that if I just get an email from someone, I'll hit the delete button, and I don't mean to do that, but it just all becomes names. And I do try to go out and meet as many booking agents as I can, yeah, definitely the phone call. And then also I try to go out and check out as much local music as possible. So I'll try to actually meet the musician when they're there. So, yeah.
And what is the biggest sort of misstep that people make when approaching, say, you as a booker for the Paramount Theater?
I don't know. I've never had any big.
There's no pet peeve that.
No.
Okay. You're like, oh, they did that. Forget it.
No. But if I can just put a face with a name, it really helps a lot.
Yeah.
And if you can follow up with the email and have all the information as we talked about earlier, like the links to your website or to your sound bites or whatever you can give me right there, so I don't have to go search for it, is also really helpful as well.
And do you use YouTube very much for
We
booking?
do.
Yeah.
We do. Well, not as much for booking, but we definitely, like, I always post YouTube videos on our website
To promote.
once we've booked someone. So
One thing I've been hearing from more and more promoters and folks who run venues is that YouTube is one of the main things they use, since you are, unlike, say, the radio or media, you're basically selling them on your live performance. So more and more, I would say, having good video and keeping track of your videos that are up on your up of you, because sometimes there's videos posted of you that you don't know about. For years, I think there was video posted of my very first performance, and it had been up there so long, I didn't know it was still there, but it was like the first thing that showed up when you like looked for me, and I thought, oh, this is like the worst example of what I do, because it was so old. But anyway, that's something that's good to keep.
Did you have him take it down?
Yeah, eventually I did have it taken down, but it can be a
Cease and
sensitive
desist?
thing, especially if it's like a friend or a fan who posted it. Luckily, the other thing is there was another musician in it, and so she actually she's like, do you mind if we take that down? And I was like, no, take it down. So, but yeah, it's worth sort of keeping an eye on, because that's what people will do. If you don't send them those links, they're going to Google you and find what they will find. So it's a good incentive.
Yeah. Another thing I appreciate is just getting invited
Yeah.
to shows, because actually going out and seeing someone perform makes such a big difference. And we do talk, especially as theater presenters. We have the Minnesota Presenters Network, and all of the people who run theaters very similar to the Paramount and other communities in Minnesota. We get together several times a year, and we'll like share names and chat. So there is a network out there of people that are looking at booking.
And Jennie's one of those wonderful and rare promoters that really will go out to hear things, which is really wonderful. So keep that in mind, you local folks. Invite Jennie to your shows.
Yeah, Yeah. But I mean, I think it's just like a musician going out to hearing other people live. It just makes such a difference, and it also makes me think about what we should be doing at the Paramount in Austin. So.
So Wendy, as someone who's locally based, what would you recommend to musicians out there who are like looking for an appropriate venue for their music? Because obviously not every venue is appropriate to every band.
Well, if you're looking locally, if you're local and you're looking locally, you're gonna know what supports your type of music, for one thing. But local from here could be Rochester, could be Winona and Rochester. I mean, there are more than just bars. There's concert theaters. There's the college tickets. Yeah. So I would say, you know your music, you know where your music is going to fit. Not always. I mean, there are, like looking at Winona, some things that are coming up there, looking at different groups. It might be something that's more hip-hop, more rock, but then there might be a folk artist that's going to be performing in the same spot. So that doesn't always necessarily apply. The Paramount Theatre, they don't just support one type of music or one type of play. But I do think that helps.
Yeah. And Sara, when you're booking either for the Bee's Knees or for one of the many other artists that you support, how do you, especially if it's maybe from out of town and you don't know the venues as well, how do you identify what venues seem appropriate for those bands?
I guess I look up the variety of venues in the town and kind of look at their websites and see who else is performing there in the next few months, and just see if it seems like a fit or if I should move on and go to the next one.
And in terms of, are you very conscious of the size of the venue as well, or more of the stylistic thing in terms of like, well, I'm not sure how much the band can draw in this area? Or do you do some research about that, about whether there's built-in crowds? Or
Yeah, a little bit, depending on the artist. You know, what their draw usually is, and if people have heard of them outside of the Twin Cities or not.
Right. And Paige and Jack, you guys tour all over the place as well. Are you guys doing your own booking these days? Or?
Yeah.
So you're on the trenches. You're not only booking the shows, but playing.
We're not that intense about it, 'cause we try to, you want a destination, depending on how far you're going, you want a destination that's going to anchor down whatever else you try to do that might not be successful when no one knows who you are. I mean, the fact is, no one knows who you are.
That's
So, no one's going to be there unless something happens.
Unless they know who you are somehow.
Which can be like if you have, we played a festival out in Portland, Oregon area, and we have some friends there that are well established in that music scene, and so they, helped us get a gig at a bar and invited all their friends, and word spread out, and we had a great show where we normally wouldn't have.
right.
So it's, if you think you're going to load up a bunch of dates on a map, no one knows who you are, and no one's going to be at them the first time.
Yeah.
And that's, that's kind of what we've been going through.
That's right. And as you said, what in the industry they call an anchor date, which they were talking about, like it could be that it's the anchor date in terms of the money, like it's enough to cover your plane ticket or a tank of gas, and then you're booking other smaller things around it. Or it could be that that there'll be people there.
Right.
It could be that again you have friends who have friends there, and you're sharing a really good bill with someone. So
Or you're getting into the right community. Even if it's not that everybody's like coming out to support you, you're getting plugged into a place that you fit, and that helps.
Well, one example of that is there's this old time band who they just had some mutual friends of ours, and they're from Brooklyn. They're based in Brooklyn, and they came through, and their friends connected them to us to open up for us at one of our shows in St. Paul. And so we met these folks. We hit it off and got along really well, and then they asked us to play out in Brooklyn for a folk festival. And we had never gone east, we'd never been out there, so from a money point of view, or from, you know, we couldn't have any huge expectations about, oh, we're gonna plan 20 stops on the way there and pack it in everywhere. That wasn't gonna happen, but we did it anyway, just because it was a nice invitation to meet some people out there, and, you know.
Right, good exposure.
Yeah, we could wait another year to go there, or we could go there now. So.
Right.
And we traveled small,
Mm-hmm.
3-piece instead of 5 or whatever, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask all the musicians about is sort of like on the touring end, sort of solo versus band, and obviously you guys are a duo, but you can expand or make the band a little smaller when need be. How do you make that decision? Is it usually just in terms of the money?
Money and people's schedules,
Mhm.
and you know, we can take chances for ourselves that we couldn't ask other people to take with us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But there are some times where we've played, that like that first time Jack was mentioning, we were invited out to Portland to play a festival out there, and we really wanted our whole band to be there because it was a festival with a lot of people, and we wanted to do what we normally did and not pare it down to something we're uncomfortable with. So that was a case where money-wise, it would have been a lot easier to just go ourselves, but we wanted to show the people out there what we did normally. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We've gone that direction a lot, you know, and just taking
Yeah.
the whole band. Just
Well,
for
and
the fun
another
of it,
thing
too.
that you guys were talking about, sort of forging that relationship with that band in Brooklyn, and sort of each helping each other out in your home territories. Another thing that I've done a lot, because I'm more in the singer-songwriter vein, and although I have a band, I often can't afford to take the band. So, but I'll do dates with other songwriters or people who play. Since I play banjo, a lot of songwriters play guitar. I'll do dates with other songwriters where I can tour solo, but then we can work up some tunes, or maybe they have a band in their community and they can back me up on a few songs, so people can get a sense of a fuller band sound. So there's a lot of ways you can do it in a less expensive fashion if you form those relationships. And I think that's sort of the key. And Sara, since you're a drummer, I have to ask, since we're talking about touring on a budget, do you select venues at all with backline, or do you always tour with your own drums?
You know, I wish more places had backlines. So usually I end up having to haul everything.
Yeah.
Unless sometimes I can share drums with another band that we might be playing with that night,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of figure it out ahead of time. But if not,
Yeah.
I'll just haul it. Unfortunately.
Well, we were talking about ways to save money on touring. Do any of you have any other recommendations on what you would do if you were trying to tour on a budget? Like, say it's your first time out, you got that cool, kind of great anchor gig, you might be playing a few other small things. What's the number one piece of advice that you'd offer to someone to save money?
Friends and family.
Very good advice.
Call on them.
Guest beds, couches,
That's right.
and to come to your shows.
Absolutely.
Sarah?
Well, I've been hearing a lot about some bands playing as duos and touring and doing house concerts.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those, the people that are hosting you end up feeding you for the night, and you can usually stay there.
And you can make
And you can
really
make
good
some
money.
Yeah, definitely. You can make money with that. So that's something that's a good option for kind of filling in the gaps between other
dates.
cities. Yeah.
And something about house concerts, for those of you who aren't really familiar with house concerts, have you guys either attended or familiar with house concerts? Okay, most folks. Well, basically, they can range anywhere from someone who has a kind of more formal concert series in their home where they book it a year in advance, and they have a sound system, to literally just a fan or a family member who invites 30 people into their living room for you to play unmiked. So they can really range a lot, but usually the idea is the host will invite their friends and family, or their networks of people. They might even have a mailing list. And then there's usually a suggested donation. Often they'll offer food and wine to the guests. And because all the money is going straight to the artist, it can be a really great money maker. Even some bigger touring acts do a lot of house concerts because then they just charge more, you know. There are some house concerts where they might be paying $45 to see a really top-level musician play in someone's home. So that's part of the appeal. But one thing I know that some musicians do is actually will, if they have gaps to fill in on their tour, as Sara was talking about, is actually put it in their email list, like to people who live in that area. They might say, you know, I'm going to be in Austin, you know, I'm going to be coming through, you know, southern Minnesota on these dates, you know, is anyone interested in hosting a house concert? And then some of them, I know some musicians who even have a little PDF that they can send to people if they've never hosted a house concert. Just, here's what you do, a sort of step-by-step, and there's websites for that, which I can refer you to if anyone ever wants to, on how to host a house concert or anything like that. So it can be a really great way, and as Sara said, great money maker and a place to stay. And you can also call in friends and family for that as well. Jack, what would your number one tour money saving advice be?
A cook stove
Ah,
and a cooler. Bring an RV if you got it. It's got good mileage.
mm-hmm.
Something you can sleep in,
Mm-hmm.
so you can go camp at a park if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a same way you travel cheap anytime, except, you know, you're going to play a gig instead of visit family. And if you're a smoker, buy cigarettes in the state that has them for cheaper. Kentucky, Virginia. Tour in the South.
You want to go to the Bible Belt. If you're a smoker.
Bring good bedding. I mean, just really basic stuff. I mean, we've slept at people's houses that last minute, you know, there's two options at the end of the night. One of them is a concrete floor with garbage on it, and I've got a lot of cats. And then the other one is we've got tons of space and blankets. And you show up and just set up the bed you always sleep on, and you're easy on people, being a good guest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good advice.
That's
Anything
kind of
to add, Paige?
State parks.
I would just add that I think for us that's worked well because we've stayed away from fast food and things like that more often by, you know, pulling into a town and looking for just buying your groceries every day or two and try to keep it, I guess, like we've tried to just have fun and live life somewhat normally, where we're making sandwiches and pulling up at some campsite. It's a lot more fun way to end the day with some friends, maybe have a beer at the campsite instead of going into town, spending a bunch of money on food, getting a hotel, finding out the hotel is kind of crummy. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just prefer the friends and family or camping or things like that when possible.
And one thing I would add to that, too, Jack was talking about sort of RVs getting good mileage and whatnot. The other advantage, of course, of touring, if you're touring with other musicians or other bands, is that if you can all pile into one car, obviously that saves a lot on gas. The other thing, of course, another way to save money, or I should say make more money, because really it all amounts to the same thing, coming home with more cash in your pocket, would be, of course, don't forget to restock on your merch if you have any. Because the goal is, again, to make money not just from the gig, not just to save money on the road, but to actually make money, get your music out there in people's hands. So I can't tell you how many times I've been to like a CD release show where the CDs weren't there, you know, and you think, oh, it's such a lost opportunity. So make sure to really have all your merch. And something that Paige was saying earlier was, you know, never assume anyone knows who you are. So really work to bring out your fans, because obviously the more people that come to your shows, the more maybe depending on the deal with the venue, maybe the more money you'll make, the more CDs you'll sell, and more likely you'll get booked back. And I should ask this of Jennie. Is there anything, talking about getting booked back at a venue, is there anything, again, that the musicians have done that you're like, I don't know if I'd have them back? Is it usually just a matter of sales, or are there other kind of components to that?
Well, of course, there's attitude. You just want to be someone that you want to work with. If you don't want to work with them, why would you bring them back? Mm-hmm. And then, if we're doing a split arrangement, if they don't do their part to help sell tickets, a lot of times I won't bring them back, because it ends up being a loss for both of us at the end of the day. So.
Right. And one thing that you can do to make sure that you are doing your part in bringing out folks is something I did when I was publicist at Red House, is it really, with every single promoter, asking the venue person, your venue contact, who are the local media people in town? Who are the people that support your venue that I should be talking to? Because they're the best resource. You might even have, maybe you're lucky enough to have some media contacts or have someone helping you out with the publicity end of things. Well, most of us do it ourselves, but they're a great resource, because you can beef up even at a record label where I had a huge database of contacts. I was still worth emailing the promoter, because they're on the ground there. It might have changed since the last time you played through there, or anything like that. And also it shows a good faith effort that you're doing your part to help promote the show.
Yep. Yeah. There's been lots of musicians that have performed at the Paramount that don't do anything to promote their work, even when they are doing a split with us, which doesn't make any sense to me. But it's just, again, it's a losing situation for all of us if that ends up happening.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I want to open it up for questions, since I want to make sure we're covering what you guys want to hear, because this is such a huge topic, booking and touring. So does anyone have any questions for any of our distinguished panelists? Yes?
So press kit could contain something as simple as like a link to your website, and on that website, basically what you're about, your music.
Yeah, I would say, a formal press kit often includes a bio, information about your music, contact info, maybe press or quotes if you have it. But in terms of what you need for booking, it can be as simple as what you're talking about. It doesn't have to necessarily be a formal document. It could be, and Sara and Jennie can talk more to maybe what they found useful, but it could just be, a link to, it depends if your Bandcamp or Facebook page or website has all this info, but you should make sure it does. At least have a sort of basic bio, information about your music, maybe your most recent recording if you have one. For booking, it might be helpful to know where you've played or something like that. And also make sure to describe what your music sounds like. That's something that often gets lost. You are sending audio, hopefully, or links to audio, but people are busy, and sometimes it's helpful that you can actually describe, so they can put no one likes to be labeled, but it is helpful to know that you're, a hip-hop artist rather than a bluegrass musician,
Yeah, that is so helpful for us, because we always get questions about what do they sound like, and I will make it real generic, but if I can get something from the musician that really describes it, it just helps our job immensely, and it helps us to be able to sell you, especially in a community like Austin, where we have your YouTube videos online, for example, but so many of our patrons are older and they don't go online, and even they'll come into the Paramount and we'll play the video for them, and they'll still be like, well, what exactly kind of music is that? Because they already have in their mind, okay, I hate blues, I'm not going to go see a blues concert. But one blues musician is so different than another blues musician. And then the other big thing on websites is downloadable photos that we can use for press. So many musicians do not have that, and it's so nice for us to be able to just go to your website and download something, because then I can send it to the press. And like for myself, I do a weekly article in the paper, and if I can, there usually will run a photo if I can get one, but a lot of times I can't get one from a musician, so.
Yeah, and that's another thing. After you've booked a show, so say you sent all the parts you're supposed to send, and they're like, yeah, this sounds great. I'll book you on this date, and you've worked out your deal. Again, go back to the person who booked you, right away, depending on what the time frame is, or even also a little bit later, ask them what they want, because every promoter is going to need something a little different. Like Jennie has her column she writes.
Right.
Some people, they might have a radio show, or a lot of people in the music business wear multiple hats. So as much as possible to what can I give you? Do you need posters? If you have that downloadable, even better. But maybe they want you to send physical copies. Just ask them what they want. And then again, it shows your buy-in. Yeah.
One thing she might want to learn about, we call it in the media business a hook.
Mm-hmm.
The hook would be if you find something that would tie you into the area that you're going to play in. Even if you got a cousin or the drummer lives in this town, use that as another use for the media. Try to find a hook wherever you're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it works really well. It just brings another added attraction to what you're doing, not just your music, but the hook as well.
That's right.
I was gonna mention, I'm in the radio biz, and when you send a CD, try to suggest a track or two. I mean, to be responsible to have to go through every CD, and sometimes there's 16 songs in there, and try to pick the best one. It's always nice to hear what the artist thinks their best couple of tunes are.
Yeah, and I would say that goes for radio, and it also goes for the promoters, the bookers. Like direct them to the tracks that maybe, if it's for a booking, you might want to direct them to the tracks that represent maybe what your live show is like. If it's radio, maybe it's directing them. If it's a specialty show like United States of America, maybe you want to direct them to your more rootsy tracks.
I'd say half of the CDs I get don't have a suggested track on it. I got this, you should see my desk, it's gonna collapse because it's got so many discs on it. Yeah, it's impossible to get through all the tracks, so.
Yeah, and that goes to the YouTube video that you linked to. If I don't get a suggestion from a musician, I'll just pick the first YouTube video that has the most hits.
Right.
And maybe that's
And
not
then
what
maybe
you
that's
really
that
want.
old video.
Yeah. But that's what's going on the website.
It's getting more hits because
Yes,
everyone keeps
exactly.
doing it.
It's true. It's like the domino effect.
And your career spirals.
Single-handedly.
It's like a backwards hit. It's a backwards radio hit kind of thing.
Sarah, have you found anything specific that's been really helpful for information you've sent to promoters to help, cinch that really good gig you've been after?
Yeah, I usually send kind of a formal one sheet,
Mm-hmm.
which will include a photo, a nice bio, if it's promoting a new album, like you said, like what songs are going to be the ones you want to hear first.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would include all of our links, to whoever's doing how to contact PR people, to our website, to Facebook, to all of that stuff.
Cool.
So.
Great. Anyone else have any questions?
Well, I guess, like you guys covered a lot of helpful stuff as it is, but in November 16th, I'll be playing a festival in Chicago. And I've never been in the area of Chicago, and it's going to be a lot of local Chicago musicians, and it's kind of intimidating. I mean, have you guys ever been in an experience where you're in a completely new world? Like, I'm familiar with the music scene up in the cities, and I've played venues all over in the cities, but Chicago's a whole new world. I mean, are there things you should do to not step on anybody's toes, things you should do to get in the right doors, check out? I mean, you guys covered a lot of stuff, but do you have anything specific when entering a whole new area for the first time?
Well, I guess I don't know if your connection to the gig was through another band or through.
I stumbled across it. I was looking through Craigslist sometime, and I found that this festival was going on. So I went to the website, and I submitted my music and my website and everything. They listened to it and they liked it. So I got friends in Chicago, but I'm not familiar with any of the musicians that are going to be there. And there's going to be 100+ musicians, and they're doing it in Wicker Buck Town.
Oh, very cool. Well, I guess I would say that, whoever booked you, I would ask them if there's anything you can, again, do to help promote the show. And then, hit up your friends and family. But I would also, pursue that media angle. Ask whoever runs the festival. They probably know people in town who host radio shows or maybe write for a blog or, find out what you can do to sort of be helpful. And then also if people go and hear you, some people might be going to hear you, not just happen to hear you, which might be really helpful. And that would be my first piece of advice. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, we've sent CDs to, if you know you're going to that city, you could find out what radio stations are around that would be most likely to play, you know, who play other kinds of music like yours, and just send the DJ an email, or send a few people an email and just tell them, hey, I like your show, and you do the kind of thing I like, and we've done that, and people will play it.
Yeah.
You know, people will play it, and a couple people will come out. You know, it won't be a huge crowd from getting played on the radio once, but it's worth
Well, and
doing.
also, people with radio, it seems that, again, if you genuinely like what they do, and you're and you're like, my music fits in, and I'm playing in your town, media loves to promote things that are happening in their town. So, and the fact that you're not from there is actually probably an asset in that case, too. So,
Thank you guys.
sure. Yeah?
For booking agents, what are you guys looking for? Like, are you guys looking for hard copy, like cover letter, bio, picture, or are you guys looking for more electronical
I usually like stuff in email,
email?
electronic version. Yeah, and if, you know, make sure that you have, like, your Facebook band page is set up and links are there. Because I've come across a lot of people that contact me and they don't even have a band page set up. And I keep saying, well, once you get this posted, you know, things might start happening, contact me then. Like, yeah, I think that's a really good tool to use, yeah.
Anyone have any other questions?
I got one.
Okay.
Are you guys full-time musicians then? Do you have any other sort of making a living or?
Well, my day job is working with the Minnesota Music Coalition, so that's a pretty busy job for me. But I'm also a DJ and a musician as well.
My day job is working for the Austin Public Schools, Central Enrollment.
And I work at St. Mary's University in the Twin Cities during the day.
I'm homeless.
So you're a full-time
I'm a
musician.
full-time musician. living with my girlfriend.
Yeah. Jack and I have both been scraping by for
Yeah.
years, mostly from playing music. So
Odd jobs,
yeah,
construction.
have part-time jobs, and
I was an art department PA on a funny commercial video this week for the first time. I do random things, but mostly music for the past year and a half.
And I think that's a good question, and I think most musicians who either choose to not tour full-time or aren't yet at the point where they can tour full-time, I think it's about finding work that you like, though, that either complements your music and allows you to still do the things you want to do creatively and professionally, and that you enjoy, I think, you know. But sometimes, you know, I know some musicians who they have a day job and they don't really love their day job, but, you know, there isn't much investment outside the job, so they can leave and then do their own thing. So everyone finds a different thing that makes them work.
Could I point something out?
Yeah.
Right now is not the best time to make a living as a musician, especially traveling. It's not a very good time to travel. I mean, gas is, you know, off the charts. It's like $4.25 when we were going out west.
yeah, earlier this summer.
Yeah.
So it's
Charlie's out there, I think, too.
it was bad. And I mean, back in, and obviously things changed, but it's like there was a time when people could travel around with a 12-piece band and make a living for everybody. And I mean, that's not happening. And like the state of things is discouraging you from being a musician, I would say.
Yeah.
It's not.
Which is why you
very
should be
few-
strategic about how you do it. And I would say a lot of times people ask me, you know, like, we've been playing a lot around the region. We want to be a touring band now. What's our next step? And I'd say, just expand your circle. I think too many people try and go too big too fast, and it gets expensive and you lose money. I would say, be strategic about what you're doing. Again, if you have the cool opportunity to play in Brooklyn with some bands and you know it's going to be a good time, then it's worth making that investment. Or if you have family in a certain area and you can stay for cheap and you can bring out some friends to that one show, you can sort of expand a sphere there. So a lot of successful touring musicians, they'll have like their home sphere and they might have little pockets where they've done well, and then eventually if you're doing it right, the spheres will eventually overlap and you can do more kind of touring. But I'd say just be strategic, don't jump too far too fast. Otherwise, nothing will slow you down like getting into debt.
Yeah, you have to be more clever, I think, now than a lot of people, even recently had to be. And so we travel around in a handicap van that's got the high top, fiberglass top, so we can stand up in it, so it's not so, boxed in, and we can stand up an upright bass, and 2 people could sleep in it if they have to, and it's not like the coolest looking dream machine, but it's also way better than a lot of scenarios. So bite the bullet and do what you have to do to make it work, I think.
Definitely. Anyone else? It doesn't have to be about booking and touring. Anyone have any questions for us in general? No.
How about, I'm working on my debut album and I'm recording and producing it myself. I was a production major for a while. Now I know mastering, would it be, for your first album, would it be something that you would absolutely want to have mastered and spend the extra money on, or do you think just having a quality mix on a CD would be good enough for getting something out there, getting people to listen to it?
I think it's worth doing.
I would do it,
I
because
would do it.
if you're going to send it to a radio station, and they're going to put it in their player, and it's twice as loud as everything else, or, doesn't have the right EQing done to it to make it palatable, then, you wouldn't want that to be why no one plays it.
Yeah. I've put in CDs before where it's like, that one cymbal sound is just like, just like killing you, and you're just like, eject. Like, I want to listen to this and I can't. And mastering people can take care of some of those frequencies that you might not hear on every stereo, but you will on some.
And it doesn't have to cost you a lot necessarily. I shop around because you definitely can pay too much for mastering sometimes, especially if it's well mixed to begin with. I mean, I don't think it needs to be a huge expense. Also, if I don't know, were you recording it all yourself too, or it's sometimes also just helpful to have another pair of ears, do that to your CD. Well, thanks for coming to this workshop. We're going to have another workshop in just a little bit with Charlie Parr and Bill DeVille. Again, this is part of the Caravan Du Nord, presented by the Minnesota Music Coalition. And I want to thank Scott Blankenbaker from Riverland Community College for helping us set up this room.